As we move into part 3 of Knife of Dreams, and I have lost my bookmark, but I do have the gold member thing from Barnes & Noble, so it kind of counts still. So we jump right back into it. We have Rand, Min, and Loyal's storyline. Obviously, there's extra characters like Cad Swan and others there as well. And oh boy, is the storyline heating up. First of all, Loyal's mum arrives. And not only does Loyal's mum arrive, but Aerith arrives as well. And Loyal and Aerith are so cute together. And we get some information about Ogres as a whole, but also the Great Stump and something called the Book of Translation. And essentially, there's a bit of an argument that breaks out. And Loyal's mum is going to argue at the Great Stump that the Book of Translation is something they should use to like leave this area, Randland, essentially, is what I understood. And Loyal completely disagrees. So it looks a bit like he's going to head to the Great Stump, and what he's going to do is try and convince all the ogres to join the fight. And we can only predict that he's going to be successful. But the Book of Translations, what does it translate? How does it translate it? Does it like open some kind of window the same way, or portal the same way everyone else has, and takes them somewhere new? So many questions and honestly not much information, so I'm not too sure what that could mean. Another little bit of information that I find interesting and that Robert Jordan is still persisting with is that Min is still carrying around, is it Herod Fell? His books. Now, Herod Fell is somebody who was murdered a while ago, and he was murdered under suspicious circumstances. And what I think we're building up to, what the payoff is going to be, is that Min is going to read why he was murdered. So I'm sure he will have made a discovery. I think he was researching like the Dark One and the Dark One's prison and how to put him back, something along those lines. And we already know that he was a great philosopher and a great thinker of the time. So I would guess maybe in the margin, he's been writing down his ideas and his thoughts in his books. And I wouldn't be surprised if Min discovers what it was he was killed for finding out. And then the big one, the battle. So thousands and thousands and thousands of Trollocs and then Midril as well are sent to attack our guys, and something crazy happens. Verin takes control. So he grabs the source before Rand can, and he basically puts on a masterclass of using the power and the ability to channel as a weapon. He creates things like death gates, I think they're called, several different ways of using fire that just murders huge amounts of Trollocs in really short periods of time. Now, this battle is quite short, and really it's what we've been waiting for. It's the first time that we've seen the power used pretty much exclusively in a battle to destroy large amounts of people. Now, the Asherman did do it at Demire Wells, and we do get lightning called down occasionally, but this was the most detailed description of the power being used in like super effective ways to destroy large amounts of people. And this is what I imagine a lot of the final battle is going to look like. So more about Verin a little bit later. Let's talk about Logain. So Logain, I think, is a really cool person. I think what's probably going to happen is Logain seems to hate Mazrim Taim more than even Rand does. So I could imagine Logain going back and fighting Mazrim Taim for the control of the Asherman. And I trust Logain. He seems like a really cool person. He seems level-headed, not egotistical, and I really hope that he wins that battle if that does come to pass. And then we get a message from Verin. So right after the battle, Verin writes a cryptic message to Rand, really about not trusting anyone, but do trust Cad Swan and that she's off. Now, knowing what I know, unfortunately I did see a spoiler a little while ago, I know that Verin is a dark friend on paper. So this really seems like, if I didn't know that, I probably wouldn't be able to guess this. But because I do know that, in a cryptic way, that message could definitely be her way of telling Rand, in my opinion. I think like if you read between the lines, it's a bit of a riddle, and it says like who to trust and who not to trust. And she really doesn't mention not trusting herself in there. So I might be reading too deep into that, but knowing what I know, it does seem Verin's way of explaining, hey, I should probably be away from you right now. I don't think I can help you being close. I think that, you know, I might be feeding information to the bad guys. That would be my guess and my take on that. One thing that I really like about Rand's storyline right now is all the characters around him have really lost the pettiness that we saw in earlier books and that we see in other storylines. Now, I think this is because obviously spending time with Rand and him being the Dragon Reborn, you really have like a deep sense and understanding that the final battle is coming. And when the final battle, such a big obstacle, is in front of you, what tends to happen is smaller obstacles and smaller problems they don't really matter anymore. And that's what we're seeing in Rand's storyline and those around Rand. And increasingly in other storylines as well, but especially with Rand's. And it's quite refreshing. It really feels like everyone's on the same page and we finally have a group of people all driving in the same direction. And then we leave Rand. It's decided that he's going to meet with the daughter of the 9 moons, and I believe that's going to be in Tear, if I'm not mistaken. And it's pretty clear that Suroth, I believe, is going to pretend to be Tuon. If the rest of the blood and the Empress, may she live forever, has been actually murdered, and all of the family and all of the people who were planning on coming across, then really it's either Suroth or Tuon who are going to be daughter of the 9 moons. Now, Tuon already is and is the legitimate one, but Suroth has a ton of influence, especially because Tuon is still missing. Now, if this meet up with the daughter of the 9 moons actually is Tuon and Mat meets with Rand, I'll be excited about that. But I have a sneaky suspicion our main 3 boys, so Perrin, Mat, and Rand, our Verin, I don't think they're going to meet back up until the final battle, because I think that's what the swirling means when they think of each other. They can see each other, the swirling comes around. I think it's like, it shows that the pattern, the next time they all meet together, something drastic is going to happen, something monumental, something that was going to either restore the pattern or tear the pattern to pieces and let it unravel. And I think that's what that swirling's all about, is that the next time they're together, something big is going down, and my guess would be the final battle. So as much as I want to see our boys together, I don't think it's going to happen until we get to the final battle. And then we move into something that really was one of my favorite things in this entire book. It was such an epic scene. So Nynaeve essentially says to Lan that she promises to drop him at the Borderlands, and she kind of holds her word. What she does is she takes him to the other side of the Borderlands that he needs to be and says you should ride across. So she doesn't break her word and she tricks him. And I was ready for that to be it. Like, she's looking after her husband and her warder and the love of her life, and she basically wants to give him more time to arrive at where he needs to go. And my initial thoughts were, okay, she's going to gather an army for him, and by the time he's there, she can hand it over to give him a better chance to survive, because he wasn't going to ask anybody to ride with him. But something even better happens. And then we move into what is one of my favorite passages to read from this entire series, not even just this book. And as far as I can remember, it's the only time, it's the only time in this entire series, and this doesn't happen very often from reading at all, where I got goosebumps and raised skin from reading a passage. And that normally only comes from the implication of what somebody is saying. And basically what Nynaeve says, and I wrote some of this down because it was so epic, she called forth the honor, the blood debt, and the vows of men who are part of what once was. The debt is owed and the golden crane rides. And just the epicness of how she did it, and the ramifications of what it must mean for those people who heard her, like a long dead country that you used to be a part of and you'd all not forgotten about, but kind of had to try and forget about because of its demise, and the king that they clearly love. Like, all of them have a deep love for Lan, even if they haven't met him. Like, he is their king, and just the patrioticness of it all just got me going. That is one of the most impactful scenes of this entire series, and I absolutely loved it. Then we rejoin Rand in Tear, and it's very clear that Lews Therin is now taking over. Is taking over the best word? I don't know, because how often is it Rand and how often is it Lews Therin now? I think very subtly what's happened is Lews Therin often has the voice of reason now, and Rand often has the voice of a crazy person now. So when did that happen? Obviously, it's been slowly happening since book 1, but I think now it's really evident that perhaps it's more Lews Therin than it is Rand. Perhaps Rand is a voice in Lews Therin's head. I don't really know the ins and outs of it. I need more information on the pattern and how all of this works, but it really does seem like Lews Therin is taking control now. So we return to Egwene's camp. Halima has finally been ousted as the person using saidin to murder people. And what also happened is one of the Aes Sedai arrives and they have an Asherman as a warder. And essentially, he explains that Asherman's offer for Aes Sedai to bond Asherman, because Asherman have already bonded Aes Sedai. And this seems like a great idea. The only issue is a lot of the Aes Sedai who have been bonded are Mazrim by Mazrim Taim's Asherman. So I don't know if they're going to be on board and on the same side as well. And that's where I can see a lot of the battle of the Black Tower going down, is over that's such a delicate scenario. Like, you have some Aes Sedai who were loyal to Aleida, who are now warders and bonded by Mazrim Taim's Asherman, and then you have some who have been bonded by Logain's Asherman, who are loyal to Egwin's camp, and it's just very confusing. So I can definitely see a big battle going on over there. Does that mean we're going to get the Battle of the Black Tower this book? I don't know. It seems to be forgotten about almost in the storyline. It was predicted. I hope we get it this book, but I don't think we will. I think we're going to get a different battle this book. I think that Battle of the Black Tower will be like the final obstacle before everybody is on board. I think it'll be Mazrim Taim's like final play before everybody is on board for the final battle. So Black Tower, I don't think this book. I hope so. It's going to be incredible because we haven't really had channelers versus channelers in like an all-out scale battle yet that's been described, where we might get perspectives from both sides. That would be epic. And then we move into Egwin, and Egwin is truly a wise one, not just in the sense of the Aiel, but just in the sense of life. Like, she seems to take any scenario and take what she can do and what she can win with out of that scenario. What she's doing in the White Tower is she's essentially helping people decide for themselves, based on the information she's given them, that Aleida is a terrible choice and that deposing her is the only choice moving forwards. And she's doing an incredible job of this. I have to say, this book has thrown up some incredible chapters, but the honey in the tea, it's a very long chapter. It's entirely focused around Egwin and Egwin's plight inside of the tower. And it really could be a story or a movie of its own right, just that chapter. It goes from Egwin's dire situation. It really lays bare the facts of she has really no influence on paper. She's having a terrible time based on her strappings and whippings and the other things that are going on there, the discipline, the hatred that she has from everybody else. And it really goes from that all the way through to the seeds that she plants, the dignity that she shows, the wisdom that she gives out to people, the way she acts, her not stubbornness anymore, because it's not stubbornness, her resilience and her ability to not crack under pressure. And then finally, at the end of that chapter, although it's not the full Aes Sedai, a lot of the novices stand for her and look at her as the mother now. And that chapter is a masterpiece of writing. It is one of the best chapters. It like I said, it really could be a story or a movie all on its own. There's so many emotions. It shows the plight of her in the tower, and I absolutely loved it. So it seems Egwin is making progress. The next thing is Aleida has asked to speak with her, and we haven't got to that chapter yet, but I am so fired up for that chapter. I think what's probably going to happen, if I had to predict, is I think that Aleida is going to lose her temper. She's going to go crazy. She's going to rage and fret and worry and scream and shout and spew hatred. And I think reason why is because Egwin is the Aemilian seat. She's a wise one mixed with an Aes Sedai, and she spent a lot of time with Verin. She is one of the youngest Aemilians ever, and she just is the Aemilian. And I think Aleida's going to see that in the meeting, and she's going to try and tear her down in anger. And then we move to Mat. And in other books, Mat has been by far my favorite perspective, and I still love his perspective, but every storyline has been so good in this book. And I'll be honest, I can't really puzzle out Tuon yet. We get a chapter from her perspective, and it's clear that the most important thing to Tuon is the Sean Chan. Her duty is clearly number one to her. However, she has some very strong feelings for Mat. And what I think is going to happen, so here's my prediction. We already know, or I think I know, Suroth has declared Tuon as illegitimate. Not legally, but saying that there's someone masquerading looking like Tuon, right? So I think what's going to happen is Suroth is going to win that like propaganda battle. She's going to convince everybody that that's like a Tuon lookalike or some kind of lie or something along those lines. And what's going to happen is Mat is going to have to take the band and actually do battle with the Sean Chan on several occasions. And what's going to happen is he's going to win. What may happen is that band of like Ogres and Death Watch guards who came to look for Tuon, I think they will link up and be absorbed into, it'll be Tuon's army. I don't think that they'll believe what Suroth is saying, but Tuon will say, yes, Matt, you're good to run these guys, and then together I think they're going to defeat a lot of Sean Chan armies, and that is going to be the final straw for Tuon, and she's going to be like, this is the man I'm going to marry. And she already knows she's going to have to marry him because of the foretelling, but I think what that's going to do is be the final nail in the coffin and be like, no, this is someone I want to marry. This is a man. But when is she going to reveal she can channel? I'm 95% certain she can channel based on things that we've seen previously, her attitudes towards healing, and that fight scene in the town after the hell when Tom goes on that speech about how sometimes you see something and you need to forget it. I think that either she or her servant can channel, but I think it's her. I think that would be the bigger reveal, and that will give her a lot of power when it comes to subduing the Sean Chan, because she can show like what a farce it's been if it comes down to that, which I don't think she'll want to do. And then finally, Perrin and Fael's perspective. And here comes the car crash. This car crash is ready to go down, and I'm so excited for it. We just have so many things going on. First off, we have Fael agreeing to meet Galena in the abandoned town to give her the rod that's going to take off her oath. Now, Galena is diabolical, and rightly so. She's had a terrible time, but I feel like she's probably pretty maniacal before that anyway. However, what I have an inkling that's going to happen is I think that she will drink some of the fork root in the daytime, go to that meeting, free herself of the oath, but not be able to channel enough to kill Fael and Morghese, and I think they might end up killing her. That's a long shot, but it would be pretty cool. I'd be a big fan if that went down. I was thinking about this last night before the video, and I was like, what would be the coolest way for that to end? And it would be for her to finally free herself, but be unable to channel because she drank some of the fork root that has been dumped into the water supply, and then for Fael and Morghese to actually kill her and escape. But we have the Shido, we have different types of ale approaching from the left and the right. We also have Galad and his 7,000 white cloaks, and the Gaishan now outnumber the Shido's Aiel as well. So yeah, it's going to be a car crash. I think that this storyline is going to be the final battle of this book, the big action sequence. And what I think is going to happen is Perrin is going to come out leading whoever's left. I think this might be the end of the Shido. I think it might be the end of the Shido's storyline. And the reason for that is because we've really seen a breakdown of everything that the Aiel hold dear. Now, they have more water than ever before. Now, that doesn't necessarily desecrate their beliefs. Like, they love water, just having more isn't a bad thing, but it also has bled into other things. There's more Gaishan than they know what to do with, and basically they have so many, and they aren't even really following the original rules. Like, the Gaishan are having like a terrible time, a lot of them, and basically they don't even have enough work for them. There's a lot of drunkards lying around, like people are drinking like crazy. It seems like people are neglecting their training. There's splits in the camp. It just seems like not the same Aiel principles that we met in the third or fourth book, whenever it was. I think it was the fourth book. So could a disciplined large Aiel army defeat Perrin and White Cloaks and maybe some other Aiel and maybe Massima's men and maybe the Sean Chan? Yeah, probably. But could this army do it? I don't think so. I don't think they have the capabilities. I don't think they're united. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is Perrin is going to unite everybody else. Hopefully Massima dies somehow. I pray, because otherwise he's going to cause big problems. He's literally insane. And then I think they're going to battle the Shido. They're going to come at them head on, but I think the Gaishan are going to mutiny. I think there's just so many of them. It doesn't make sense to have more servants than you have people actually part of your army. And if it was regular Gaishan, it wouldn't matter, but they've desecrated the rules. What they've done is they've taken a load of wetlanders and made them Gaishan and expect them to follow the same rules, and the wetlanders aren't going to do that. They're not going to sit down and just wait while they battle. I think a lot of them are going to fight for their freedom. And on top of that, the wolves are coming as well. Always love it when the wolves are involved. So I think out of that whole big final battle, Perrin will emerge, hopefully with Fael, and will be leading whatever is left. My question for you guys this time around is, based on all of the civilizations that are in these books, which one would you most like to live in? Now, a few ideas sprung to mind. Obviously, living in Valon would be fantastic because historically there's been very effective law. However, being a man surrounded by all of these women who were able to channel and really running things and not really having a say would potentially be a little bit scary, especially because I couldn't channel. I would feel a little bit helpless. The other one that jumped out to me was living in a steading. Living in the steading with the Ogier would undoubtedly be very wholesome. However, they move so slowly and do things so slowly that I think I may get bored. The city that really jumped out for me was Camelin. Now, although Camelin's storyline has been quite slow, I don't think that is a negative for the city. The city itself seems to be quite logical, the laws seem to be quite fair, and although the succession definitely looks messy every single time, overall I think that is the place that shouted out the most to me as like, this would be a good place to live. But you tell me, which location or area of the map would you most like to live in and why? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, if you've been enjoying, please like, please subscribe, and hit the notifications button. I have about 200 pages, so there's going to be a fourth part to this book just because so much happened in these books, and I'm excited for it. I'll see you at the next video. Have an amazing day.